right, back at it again. Back at it again with a Chapter 8 Common Core practice. This chapter focuses on volume, specifically spheres and cones and cylinders. So you're going to want to know your spheres, cones, and cylinders, volumes, and such. Otherwise, this is going to be a very challenging section for you. Also, you're going to want a calculator. I'm using my my cellular mobile device to do the job, so you're going to want that handy because you're going to need it. Also, you can have Siri do all the work, and I'll probably show you what to do while you're on this video too. All right, enough with the introductions. Enough with the introductions. A right circular cone and its dimensions are shown below. What is the approximate volume of the cone? A cone's volume is V equals 1/3 pi r squared h. I have my r, it's 8. R stands for radius. If for some reason it would give me diameter, then I'd have to take half of it, but I'm in good shape. 12 here represents the height, so I'm just going to plug it in. V equals 1/3. Do they want me to use pi or do they want me to use 3.14? It doesn't say. I'm always going to use pi every single time because I'm a math teacher and that's kind of what I do. Radius is 8 squared. That's supposed to be a parentheses, but there's lag, times height, which is 12. It's probably faster if I just use Siri. You ready? 1/3 times pi times 8 squared times 12.
The answer is approximately 804.248.
So there it is, 804.248, approximately. Oh boy, right off the bat we have a not pretty problem. This is called a composite solid, also known as a compound solid. What you do is you take the two shapes that you have, you find the volume of each, you add them up. Let's start out with the simpler shape. We have ourselves a cylinder. It gives me here the diameter is of 12. I don't want the diameter. I want the radius of 6. Cylinder's equation is V equals pi r squared h. And in this case, V equals pi 6 squared 26. Okay? So let's get out Siri. What is pi times 6 squared times 26?
The answer is approximately 2,940.53.
2,940.53. So what we have to be really careful of. What we have here is not a sphere. What we have is a half sphere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write out the formula for a sphere, which is 4/3 pi r cubed, and then I'm going to multiply that to a half. Okay, I need the radius, that's all I need. I said cubed, but I wrote out squared, it looks like accidentally. The radius is 6, because if I just moved that radius up there, it would be 6. So I have V equals 4/3 pi 6 cubed times a half. Okay? 4/3 times pi times 6 cubed times a half.
The answer is approximately 452.389.
452.389. All right. Now we need to add those guys up. 2,940.53 plus 452.389.
The answer is 3,392.919.
There you have it. There you have it. That's 2. Rectangular prism. All right. Volume of that given prism, volume of a, I'm going to do that 1,000 times. Volume of a rectangular prism is length times width times height. Doesn't matter which one's length. It doesn't matter which one's width. It doesn't matter which one's height. So I'll call you pretty cursive L. I'll call you pretty W, and I'll call you pretty H. So I have 11 times 7 times 4. 11 times 7 times 4.
That would be 308.
308. Cool. Takes care of that one. Nice that we did a rectangular prism, because look what we have. What we have is another composite solid, which again is two solids glued together. Being very, very, very careful, we have a rectangular prism. Oh my gosh, a rectangular prism. And we have a half cylinder. This is going to be fun. Okay, so let's start out with the rectangular prism because it's pretty nice. Volume is going to be length times width times height. So 5 times 11 times 6, 330. And the half cylinder, we have to be very careful. Okay, I can't. What you're gonna have to do is take your head, tilt it sideways, and you can pretend that that cylinder, instead of laying on its side, is standing up. So what I'm gonna do is that 11 right there is the height of the cylinder. Is the height of the cylinder. Now, what's the radius of the cylinder? Well, if I take that 5 and move it up here, that gives me the diameter, but I don't want the diameter. I want the radius, which is 2.5. So this is what I have going on. Again, pretend like that cylinder, you're taking that cylinder and it's you have a can that's cut in half. So you have a half can. All right, so it's sitting like that. If it's tilted up like that, you can see that the height is 11 and that the radius is 2.5. The volume of a cylinder is pi r squared h. I have half of a cylinder, so I'm going to multiply it by a half. So my volume is going to be pi times my radius, which is 2.5 squared, times my height, which is 11, times my half. All right, so pi times 2.5 squared times 11 times a half.
The answer is 107.992.
0.992. So let's take those two numbers, add them together. 330 plus 107.992.
It's 437.992.
So 437.992 is like, I'm going to go buy something for $437.99. Well, you're pretty much spending $438. All right? All right. All right. All right, 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 all right. And the volume of a cylinder-shaped silo that has a diameter of 60 feet and a height of 80 feet. All right. Well, cylinders are pi r squared h. R is the radius. Don't care about you, Mr. Diameter. I care about the radius. And the radius is half the diameter, so the radius is 30. The height is 80. V equals pi 30 squared times 80. Pi times 30 squared times 80.
The answer is approximately 2,261.95.
All right, so this is what it gave us. 2,000. What was it? 2,261. Oh, you know what? When I say, okay, that's not right because it's not right at all. Pi times 30 squared times 80. It did 3 squared.
The answer is approximately 226,195.
So 226,195. Now, you might look at this and say, the answer is not there, because this problem probably wanted us to use 3.14 instead of pi. Now, let's try that instead just for funsies. 3.14 times 30 squared times 80.
The answer is 226,080.
So there we have it. So what you have to keep in mind is if we use pi, the actual number pi, pi has a lot more digits attached to it. It doesn't change the answer a whole lot. I mean, in retrospect, if like I were to give you, $2,200 or $226,000 and 195 versus 108 or 80, it's not that much of a difference. I'm fumbling all over my words here, but in reality, since this uses pi and this wanted us to use 3.14, we're going to say that this is our answer because it's really, 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 really close. All right. Problem 6 has us with 2 cylinders, and it wants for us to find B. And it looks like this problem should be more involved than it is, but it's not. I think all I have to do is just find V equals pi r squared h. And in this case, everything is exactly where it should be. V equals pi 12 squared 20. Now these problems look like the last problem that I did. I know when I made this, I took it from 2 different sources. So I'm going to use 3.14 instead of pi. 3.14 times 12 squared times 20. Let's see what it gives us.
The answer is 9,043.2.
9,043.2. What if I used pi? Pi times 12 squared times 20.
The answer is approximately 9,047.79.
So I don't even know which one I'm supposed to use. I'm just going to keep using pi and take it from there. Always pi, always pi, always, always, always pi, always pi, always pi. How many times larger is the volume of cylinder B than the volume of cylinder A? This is going to be a fun problem. And I'm not going to even find the volume. Watch what I do. I want to find out how many times larger. If I'm 20 years old, right, and you're 10, I'm 2 times larger in age than you are. How do you do that? Well, 20 divided by 10. Well, if I want to find the volume, okay, if I want to find the volume of this top of B, and I wanted to find out how much bigger it is than A, I'm going to do B divided by A. So the easiest way of doing this is to find the volume of B, which we actually already did up there, and then find the volume of A, which won't take long, and then just do this divided by that. But this is faster because watch what I do. The volume of B is going to be pi times R, which is 12, squared times 20. We just did that up there. The volume of A is going to be pi times 6 squared times 20. And as we learned back in the day from chapter 10, if I have something on top of something else, let me scroll down a bit, and they're the same exact thing and all I'm doing is multiplying, I could just cross those out. Pew! I could just cross those out. Pew! And what I have is 144, because that's 12 squared over 36, and 144 divided by 36 is 4. So the answer is 4. Now, again, you might look at that and be like, huh? You might make the Tim Allen sound from Home Improvement, and not understand. But this is just another way of doing it. If you're like, no, I think I'm just going to find the volume of each of them because I just found the volume of the first one, and then divide. Go ahead and stop talking like that. You sound ridiculous. Find the volume of a cone. Volume of a cone is 1/3 pi r squared h. There's a huge lag, so like my curly numbers like those are just not turning out nice at all. All right, I have everything I need. 2 is my radius, 5 is my height. V equals 1/3 pi, r is 2 squared, and my height is 5. 1/3 pi, 2 squared, 5.
Here's what I found.
Okay. What is 1/3 times pi times 2 squared times 5?
The answer is approximately 20.944.
What's a 20.944 for math? Okay. I hope you guys are actually watching this and it's just not me doing my terrible dad jokes. It's backwards land, finally. The volume of the cone is 7,200 cubic yards. Find the height. All right, so volume is 1/3 pi r squared h. Let's plug in what we know and work backwards. Volume is 7,200. That's going to equal 1/3 pi. R is 15. Height is I don't know. But what I can do is h isn't all by itself, and if I'm supposed to find the height, I have to get h all by itself. Well, look at these three numbers attached to each other. Why don't I just multiply them? Because they're like right next to each other. What's 1/3 times pi times 15 squared?
The answer is approximately 235.619.
235.619, so we'll do 0.6 h. Is h all by itself? No. What's in the way? 235.6. So I'm going to divide both sides by 235.6. 7,200 divided by 235.6.
The answer is about 30.5602.
30.5602 is close to 30.58. So I'm going with that, and I'm sticking to it. And I think the reason why I didn't get the answer that I wanted to get is because I didn't round to the nearest hundredth. I round to the nearest tenth, so my number is going to be slightly off. But it worked out in the end. In the end, it doesn't even matter. Rest in peace. Look him up. Chester Pennington. Look him up. All right, kids. We have ourselves another composite. It looks like we have ourselves a regular old cylinder. A regular old cylinder. Oh, actually, we'll go left to right. A cone attached to a cylinder. According to the picture, the cone seems to give me the indication. See that blue line that's dashed all the way throughout? Usually when they dash the whole line, they're talking about the entire length here. So it's telling me the diameter is 6. I don't care about the diameter being 6. I care about the radius being 3. So the cone is going to be V equals 1/3 pi r squared h. If I take this and turn it sideways, I have a cone where the height is 5 and the radius is 3. So V equals 1/3 pi 3 squared 5. One third times pi times 3 squared times 5. I guess is 12.
The answer is approximately 47.1239.
47.1239. All right, cylinder time, baby. That cylinder has a height, again, if I'm taking this and turning it sideways, has a height of 20. So my cylinder formula is pi r squared h. The radius will not change because the cone and the cylinder share the same radius. So volume is pi times 3 squared times the height of 20. Pi times 3 squared times 20. Let's see what we get there.
The answer is approximately 565.487.
565.487. And I just used the numbers that Siri gave me. I didn't round them anywhere. Whatever Siri said, I went with. Whatever Siri wants. 47.1239 plus 565.487.
It's 612.6109.
Okay. Okay. So basically, we just went from a weird problem to a really easy problem. This be a sphere. V equals 4/3 a pi a r a cubed. It tells me that r is 4. So it really doesn't get much more straightforward than that. 4/3 a pi a 4 a cubed. All right. 4/3 pi r cubed. 4/3 pi. Did I lose it? What's 4/3 pi 4 cubed?
Here's what I found.
Figures that the easiest problem that I have so far, I can't even do right. What is 4/3 times pi times 4 cubed?
Here's some information.
One more time. What is 4/3 times pi times 4 to the 3rd power?
The answer is approximately 268.083.
Technology. It's the worst. If the ball-shaped sphere, or the sphere, was put inside the can-shaped cylinder, how much air is in the can? So basically, you're taking a can, you're taking a ball, you're putting the ball in the can, and there's going to be air left over. This is going to be subtraction. What I have to do is I have to find the volume of the cylinder. It's like the 8th time that I've done this. Cylinder. And then I subtract the sphere. Okay? It's hard to visualize that. But if I take the can and I put a ball in it, okay, the leftover areas in the corners is going to be that air. So I have to get rid of the ball in order to find out how much that air is. So everything is pretty straightforward, it looks like. My cylinder is going to be pi r squared h. Like I said, everything's straightforward, and fortunately, I really can't screw this up because they just use the same number. So 7 squared times 7. Let's figure that out. Pi times 7 squared times 7.
The answer is approximately 1077.57.
1077 point. What did you say? 57? We'll go with that. The sphere is very straightforward too. V equals 4/3 pi r cubed. 4/3 times pi times 6 cubed.
The answer is approximately 904.779.
904.779. I'm subtracting. I almost accidentally added in my head. 1077.57 minus 904.779.
It's 172.791.
There you are. Okay. Ooh. Easy page. Dunzo. Dunzo Funzo. All aboard the ice cream truck. A street vendor wants a license to sell ice cream cones in Mathville. The requirements to sell ice cream is that each cone is 5 inches high and has a diameter of 2 inches. Each cone is filled completely with ice cream and has a perfect hemisphere on top. How much ice cream would be needed for every one ice cream cone sold if the vendor gets a license? So lots of information there. First things first, let's do the easy part. You got yourself a cone. You got yourself a cone that is 5 inches high. So the H is 5. Okay. The diameter is 2, but I don't care about that. I care about the radius being half of that, which is 1. So I have myself a cone, and if the cone's completely full, it's going to be V equals 1/3 pi r squared h. In this case, 1/3 pi 1 squared times 5. Okay. 1 squared is a whole lot of 1. 1/3 pi times 1 squared times 5.
The answer is approximately 5.23599.
5.23599. On top of that, I have a perfect hemisphere, which is half of a sphere. So I'm going to use the formula 4/3 pi r cubed, but multiply it by a half. What's my r, you ask? Well, if this is supposed to be a half circle, okay, which as you can clearly see by my drawing, it is. There's the radius right there. The radius is 1. So the radius is 1. 4/3 pi times 1 cubed, which is a whole lot of 1, times a half. What's 4/3 times pi times 1 cubed times 1/2?
The answer is approximately 2.0944.
So you have your cone, you have your half sphere on top of it. Let's add things up. 5.23599 plus 2.0944.
It's about 7.3303.
I scream, you scream, we all scream for more math problems. 2 more pages, I believe. All right, looks like it's time to say peace to the multiple choice because we're doing some problems without it. Find the missing dimension of the cone. So I need to find the missing height. So we did a problem like this already, but now we don't have the majesty of multiple choice to help us out. The volume of a cone is 1/3 times pi times r squared times h. What do I know? I don't know h. I know that the diameter is 10, but I don't care about that. I care about the radius, baby. So 1/3 pi 5 squared h. And silly me, I do know something else that I just totally forgot to write down. I do know what the volume is. The volume is 310, so let me change the v into 310. 1/3 times pi times 5 squared. It's going to give me that guy right there.
The answer is approximately 26.1799.
26.1799 h. Is h all by itself? No. What's in the way? 26.1799. So I'm going to divide everything by that number, 26.1799 divided by 26.1799. 310 divided by 26.1799.
It's about 11.8411.
All right, so if it's 11.8, what did it want me to do? The nearest tenth? 11.8 is going to equal h. So what do I have? Millimeters? My height is 11.8 millimeters. Okay, working backwards. All right. Find the volume of a solid, round your answer to the nearest tenth. What do we have? We have ourselves a cylinder, so V equals pi r squared h. What do I know? H is 6. I don't care about U10. I care about U5 because I want the radius, not the diameter. So the volume is going to be pi times 5 squared times 6. Pi times 5 squared times 6.
The answer is approximately 471.239.
0.239. If we're rounding it to the nearest tenth, 23 is just going to round to 2. We have millimeters, so I'm going to make sure it's millimeters cubed because volume is measured in cubic units. That's that for that page. One more page to go. Kids. All right, a whole lot of nonsense in this problem right here, so let's do it together. Find the volume of the composite solid. We have cone 1, so I'll call you cone 1. And I have cone 2. And let's just do them one cone at a time. So cone 1 is 1/3 pi r squared h. Cone 1 seems to be very straightforward. There's my r, there's my h. So v equals 1/3 pi times 4 squared, a fun game, times h, which is 5. Let's figure that out. 1/3 times pi times 4 squared times 5.
The answer is approximately 83.7758.
Okay. Got to be a little careful here because looking at this at first glance, it looks like if you're not careful, you're going to get it wrong. There's my height. Height's 4. That's my diameter. I don't care about the diameter. Again, when it gives you the whole thing, like it did in that black line, it's assuming diameter. I don't want the diameter. I want half of it, which is the radius, 5. So I have V equals 1/3 pi r squared h. V equals 1/3 pi. R is 5. 5 squared. H is my height, 4. Very, very, very similar to the last one. So if you're like, oh, it's going to be 83.7, no, it's not. 1/3 times pi times 5 squared times 4. It's going to be much bigger.
The answer is approximately 104.72.
104.72. What am I rounding this to? It doesn't say, so I'll round it to whatever that says. 83.7758 plus 104.72.
The answer is 188.4958.
188.4958. What do we have? Centimeters? Centimeters cubed. When it doesn't say to round, I'll just round it to whatever you want to round it to. It's better to round it to more decimal places than not enough. So I'm just going to do all of them. Find the volume of the composite solid. Round your answer to the nearest tenth. Now it's telling us to round. Well, let's not be silly here. Silly cylinder. Oh, gosh darn it. Cylinder. What else do I have? I have a half sphere and a half sphere. And if I take two halves and I glue them together, I have a whole sphere. Now here's the tricky part. If that 3 is the radius of a sphere, I could take that 3 and move it down that way and say that length left to right is also 3, which means that length left to right is also 3, which means this length right here, which represents the height of the cylinder, is not 12. The height of the cylinder is like, let's take the whole thing and then knock off that 3 and knock off that 3. What do I have left if the whole thing was 12? By 3, 9. By another 3, 6. So the height of the cylinder is 6. The radius is 3. Tricky, 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 tricky. Cylinder is pi r squared h. Cylinder is pi 3 squared 6. What is pi times 3 squared times 6?
The answer is approximately 169.646.
646. Okay. The sphere is a little more straightforward. So I have V equals 4/3 pi r cubed. And remember, this is 2 half spheres glued together to give us 1 full sphere. 4/3 pi, radius is 3, cubed. 4/3 times pi times 3 cubed.
The answer is approximately 113.097.
Let's add them together. 169.646 plus 113.097.
That would be 282.743.
282.74 is 0.7 centimeters. All right, that's that. Bye.